So last time we talked about the basic three-point paper, and this lecture we're going to talk about what types of writing are there. If you could write the three-point paper, you can write bigger papers. It's just adding on paragraphs. And so the only thing that's really happening is you can become more complex, or actually you've become a lot more simpler, but it's still about stories. Just to segue off, if you remember from lecture 2, there are all these different kinds of techniques. Think about integrating a couple of them into your writing, such as euphemism. Some students asked me, Dr. Cho, what are you going to do when you retire? And I said, I think I want to make my anti-camera speeding system. And that's that there's a lot of radar sensors right now that are small, and they're actually opaque films that when you apply voltage to them, it basically just becomes opaque. And so you put that over your license plate, and the radar detector triggers it, then cameras can't get you. And then a student said to me, Dr. Cho, isn't that criminal? And I said, criminal is such a negative word. Let's just say it's innovative. Euphemism. Hyperbole. This is going to be the greatest competition in humankind. I always botch up the pronunciation of this word. Onomatopoeia. And that's where the sound mimics the real thing. So, like swoosh or something like that. And rhetoric we know about is repetition. Is one of the techniques of rhetoric that you can use. So today we're going to talk about the types, some examples, and some of the basic ideas that go into writing. But what it all comes down to is all these different forms and techniques and everything else. It's still about a story. How do you want to move people? And it's all about the vehicle, though, that you're going to use. There's a lot of different kinds of publications. A lot depends on the audience, the type of media, and what is the objective. Is it about entertainment? Is it about intellectual stimulation? Is it about historical record? What is it about? These are essentially the different types of writers. There are nonfiction writers, people who write for media, like write copy. That's the thing, they say English majors are dead, but you still need people who can write copy. Do you write fiction? Do you write short stories? They all have different kinds of pacings. What also depends on what you do in each medium is what kind of imagery are you going for? Like in nonfiction, you want a very, very exact image of it, whereas in fiction, you want some level of imagination to come into place. Are you writing for a long play or short play? If you're writing articles or shorter things, you're writing for a short play. On the other hand, if you're writing a script or something like that, it's a longer play through all this speech and all. What level of realism are you going for? And finally, what is the objective? It's still about audience. It's still about objective. Is the objective intellectual in nature, or is it emotional in nature, or is it a blend of both? Nonfiction is about building narrative in a structured form. And what is nonfiction about? It's about to inform and persuade. Fiction is often a shorter form, and it focuses on lines and narrative. It's building images, constructing worlds. And so you're trying to inspire. You're trying to create worlds inside your head. Now, a lot of people didn't like Star Wars 1 to 3. I did like it. And the reason why I like it is, oh yeah, the acting was horrible, and the storytelling wasn't all that great. But what I liked about it is that Lucas wanted to take you to different worlds, and that's what I enjoyed. In terms of media, e-media is mostly about trying to generate activity. It's a shorter form, but you still have to construct it. And what it's about fundamentally is connecting. And then once I connect you, can I entice you to do something, to take some kind of action? And finally, short forms, it's about phrasing, lyricism. The goal is to, and typically in short forms, is to get some kind of emotional response. An example is like poetry. This is The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. It's considered to be one of the greatest poems ever made. And, for example, do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse. And so, what do you see here? Divisions and revisions. He's using play on words. Do I dare? Do I dare? So all these techniques I talk about, if you could see, the higher level writers always implement this. And the reason why T.S. Eliot called his poem The Wasteland, I consider it to be the greatest poem ever written, is because in the end, how much can you really fight against life? Or are we just cogs to drift along? On the other hand, somebody like Emily Dickinson, you could see the patterns which writers, which tell you about the author. So if you're very well read, you could pretty much read something and know who the author is. And so as you could see, Emily Dickinson likes to occasionally intersperse rhymes. But in general, Emily Dickinson is very soft in nature and very loving in nature, and that's why people love her so much. In terms of fiction or short fiction, witticisms are another kind of story. Dorothy Parker was actually part of a writer's circle called The Vicious Circle, and she was quite the feminist for her time. She didn't take bullshit from men. And so people like Oscar Wilde I also liked because, again, he, through his witticisms and one-liners, for example, Dorothy Parker, the cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity. And Oscar Wilde, conformity is the last refuge of the unimaginative. And so both of them, very clever, very witty. And so, but that's a kind of fiction. What about scripts? Scripts are longer plays where you're going by, and still storytelling, remember, scene by scene. But a big emphasis in script is vision and background. What is the setting? And the other part of a script is how do people talk? Now, one thing that Quentin Tarantino is known for is that characters actually talk for a long period of time. Now, you can imagine the reason why they keep it short is because it's hard to memorize all this. But Quentin Tarantino is a person, and Kevin Smith is also. They're the two guys who love words more than anybody else I've seen, at least in my lifetime. And so it's also when he has people speak, their long speeches are a story of themselves. For those of you who remember Inglourious Bastards. And this is a page from that script. It was printed on the internet so I could copy it. But what it comes down to is when he gives that big speech at the end, he builds up to it. I don't blame you. And then he's leaning him down of why he's about to do what he's going to do next. And it makes logical sense. Nonfiction. David McCullough is considered to be one of the greatest historical writers, and that's that he writes very long pages, meticulously researched, and he tries to find interesting details, but the entire point of his depth is to give you a 360-degree view of this person, and so you feel like that you know them. Michael Lewis, I really enjoy, because what he does is he takes very complex events, and what he does is he finds a few key characters in all this, and he follows those characters. And so now, instead of like seeing rich people short the market, or baseball moving towards analytics, he puts a human face on it. And one of his great books was The New Deal. And what the New Thing. And it was this obsession about innovation during the dot-com boom. And then you find the foibles of people in it. For example, Clark created Netscape. And his big motivation for doing that is because he wanted to build a bigger boat and he didn't have the money for it. So, hey, this internet thing's going to be big. I'm going to make $1 billion and buy myself a new boat. For those of you who saw the movie Moneyball, it's Moneyball, yes, this is about innovation and all, but there are people's emotions, their dreams, their hopes that all envelop into this. And so, you can watch these videos about Moneyball and see how it progresses. Medium blogs, what they have to do is get you excited right away. And so typically a lot has to do with visuals because visuals are much more impactful than words. But for example, this woman, Sally's Baking, she had such great pictures of her desserts. It got an entire following, and now she gets 8 million visitors a month. Now, a lot of you think we're going to make our money off ads. You cannot make much money off ads unless you have millions and millions of visitors because you're only making like a couple of cents per every time somebody clicks. But what the key is also for media and e-media is also technical. Besides the visuals, you have to have backlinks. And what backlinks are is, you know, when you go to a website or something, they're connected to other things. The more you're linked to the internet, the more activity you have because you have more network links. And so that's a key to this. You just can't put a website out there and just leave it alone. It'll never pop up anywhere. The basic idea of stories don't change, but the details of how to do these things change. The thing is, when you come out with your TEM degree, you will think like an innovator. And now, how can you do the same thing I did and move industry to industry? What you realize is that every industry has its own set of rules and its own game. But if you look at enough games, what happens? You think conceptually and you start to see the patterns. And once you see the patterns, then you can go figure things out. It's still about the draw, the payoffs. Draw does not mean words alone. As you can see, pictures and video, and this is why there's so much popularity in GIT for all the creatives and all. It's not about art anymore. It's about electronic technology, and so that's why it's such a great major. Forms go from structured to unstructured. Lyrical, poetry are more disordered, but they still have to follow certain rules. And one is people just throw things up, but it's still a progression of points to points of where are you trying to move somebody. And finally, whether you're moving backwards in time or forwards in time or whatever, everything is a story. It's just a matter of seeing it.